Hi everybody, welcome to this My tutorial. Today we're going to be having a quick look at storyboards and why we make a storyboard. So a storyboard is basically a guide to show you what shots you're going to make in your animation. So rather than just free-forming an animation which will turn out a bit pointless, you're going to make an animation that is, you want to plan your animation, and the storyboard is a tool to use that. So as you can see here, I've got some very rough sketches here, and this is all that a storyboard needs to be, is a very, very rough sketch. So you can see here, we have a 10-second animation, so I really only need 4 frames for this. So I'm just showing the key shots. So my first shot is very, very rough, so it doesn't matter if you're good at drawing or not. This is just a planning tool. This isn't an show how good you can draw tool. So I'm just showing you how basic it can be. So my first frame, I have a van in the distance driving into the foreground, and it's very much like a comic book. We just draw this like a comic book, and we basically try and keep our frames the way we want to see them in the actual final shot. So I've got these rectangular frames, more or less, and this is just going to help us work out what we're doing. Okay, so we have a van in distance driving toward the camera, and it's very important to have the timing here. So I've put this for about 3 seconds, and this doesn't have to be exact, but it's just a guide. So I've got a van driving from the distance into the foreground. Then we have a side shot of the van driving. Rockets pop out of the rear, and that goes for 3 seconds. So we can see our little rockets popping out, and we can see our camera is going to be following our van. Scene 3, the van leaves the ground and the camera follows from the front. I've actually trimmed this off the bottom here, unfortunately, but I have some little wings popping out of the van because it's a sci-fi shot. So some little wings popping out and the van taking off. And we see the buildings in the background here. And I've also chopped off the time there, but at 3 seconds. And the last one, this is really just a continuation of shot 3. The van passes the camera and flies into the sky, into the clouds. And that's 1 second. So very, very simple. It doesn't need to be anything more than that because it's only a 10-second animation. And I'm going to show you what I've created from this. So we have our van in distance. I'll just zoom in on this. Our van in distance driving toward the camera for 3 seconds. So I go to my Maya scene. And we can see here I've got some cameras in my scene, in my outliner. I've got camera scene 1. So if I go to panels and choose, I'll show my overall scene first. So if I go perspective, I can see my overall scene. I've got a van animated along a, oops, I'm going to change my clipping plane for that. Oops, I've got the camera selected. F. That's misbehaving itself a little bit at the moment, but we should be able to see this. Cool. So we've got our van driving through a scene. And so this is going to be our frame 1. So our camera 1 is just sitting in a position. So I choose it here, camera scene 1. And we can see here it's driving from the distance to the foreground. I've actually accidentally moved that camera, so I'll move it back into its correct place. Okay, now I said 3 seconds. 3 seconds is approximately 75 frames, so that's pretty much how we want it to go from here to here. So I'm pretty happy with that. So this will be my first shot from 1 to 75. And play. So the van driving from the distance into the foreground. My second shot is a side shot of the van driving and the rockets pop out the rear. So thrusters pop out the rear, and this one's also 3 seconds. So I've got the van, and you'll notice with this one, I have my car object, and I have this camera 2 as a child of the car. So that means it's going to stay with the car. So you can see that here, that camera's moving alongside it. So I'm going to select that camera. And this time I want frame 75 through to 150. So let's play this. Cool, and that's all you see. I've got a little bit of a wobbly wheel. And you can see at the back the thruster popping out the back. I could probably change my angle a little bit to do that. We can just see it's, but we can sort of see the buildings go by in the background, so this just gives us a bit of perspective. So it's going to be scene 2. Now scene 3 and 4. My recording program doesn't like having it has the keys multi-purpose here, so bear with me. Okay, so scene 3, the van leaves the ground and the camera follows from the front, which is 3 seconds, and this moves to the van passes the camera and it flies into the sky. So this time the camera is going to move and then it's going to turn. So if I go back to here, it's going to be these two shots are with the one camera. We've got camera scene 3, and this is going to be from a frame 151 or 150 through to 240. And it doesn't matter if I have a couple of frames either side here either. So I'm going to go to, actually I'll set that to 150. Camera 3, and that's an animated camera. And if you're not sure about how to do all of these camera actions, look at the previous tutorials because that's where it all is. So this time we've got the camera leaving the ground, heading into the sky, and then spinning around, going off frame. Oh, we could probably work on that a little bit more. We can see the wings pop out the side. We can probably make that movement a little bit smoother, work on that. But here we actually have, so that sort of makes our scene into a more interesting scene. Okay. So to conclude, a storyboard is a very simple tool that we can use to work out what frames we're going to use, how long it's going to go for, and what it's going to look like. And that way we're not just making it up as we go. So we're actually planning out, and this is expected as part of any kind of animation that you'll need to do a rough storyboard. So I'm sure you can all draw with no problems to this quality. It doesn't matter how good it is, it just matters that you're showing what the shot's going to be in a rough way, and that's going to help you out when you're making your animation. Point 2 is we have all of our cameras here, and remember from previous tutorials that we can make a camera using the rendering tab, the little camera, and I've named my cameras nice and handily here, camera scene 1, 2 and 3, and I've made this camera a child of the car object so that it moves along with the car. So that with scene 2, that it's, well, this is actually scene 3, but I'll go back to scene 2, which is frame 75 through to 150. So scene 2, you can see I've got a bit of a wobbly wheel there. That's okay. It's not important for this. That our camera is staying stationary with our car and everything else is moving. That's because I've got that as a child object of the car. Okay, thank you very much.